Trades. They've happened. Two more. Jrue Holiday, Anfernee Simons, Jordan Poole, CJ McCollum. Let's talk about it. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and can somebody edit me saying I am a player like that? I am a player like that. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free. We're available on all platforms. Double bang, hit the thumb, comment, like, subscribe. Importantly on YouTube, because tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern, a live NBA draft show. I will see you there. I was expecting to wake up this morning and launch into the second half of the Pacers season review, but I won't, because two trades have happened. They're important. And then I've got to do my final mock draft. So the Pacers season review will be delayed, the second half, which it might come today. It might come before the live draft show. I'm not sure. We'll see. But I wanted to talk about these two trades. Now, it is important when talking about these two trades to, number one, recognize that today is World Vitiligo Day. Recognize that. But also that I don't know that all of these teams have finished doing their business. And I don't mean going to the toilet, although some might say that some of these moves took a shit on their own team. That's up to you to say that. But, no, it's not. I'll say it. But I think that some of these things, you look at them and go, oh, that's great. We can have a detailed breakdown of all the fantasy impact, and it will mean absolutely nothing, because other things will happen, and we'll address that as we go through here. What we will start with is just talking about the first trade of these two that went down, which is after I recorded 3 shows in a row yesterday, 2 hours, 3 hours later, this trade went down. I went, I'm not going back to do another one. We'll save it for today, and then thankfully, something else happened in the interim, and that is the Portland and Boston trade. The Portland and Boston trade, which we have seen happen already, where Jrue Holiday was sent from Portland to Boston, and now Jrue Holiday is being sent back from Boston to Portland. It's strange. It's strange. Let's go through the details of the trade. First of all, there's only 2 players as a part of this. It's Anfernee Simons and Jrue Holiday. Boston receives Anfernee Simons. They receive somehow 2 second-round picks. And when you hearken this back to remember the Marcus Smart, Kristaps Porzingis deal, remember that deal? And you see it and you go, well, okay, the Celtics are getting Porzingis and they're getting a first-round pick. Why are the picks going in this direction? There is a lot of times that this happens in the NBA where picks travel the wrong direction from what my perception is. Bogdanovic and the Clippers and the Hawks, the Hawks sent 2 second-round picks to get Terrence Mann and Bones Highland back. What? Why? Why did the Grizzlies send a first-round pick with Marcus Smart so that Celtics could get Porzingis for free? What? And why did Portland trade for Jrue Holiday and sent picks out? Now, the picks aren't going to be good, probably. 2030 and 2031 second-round picks. I don't understand it. From the Boston point of view, I'm loath to talk about this too much. Anfernee Simons is a horrible defender. Yep, Jrue Holiday is a very good defender. Anfernee Simons is a usage player, much higher than Jrue Holiday, a better shooter, passing, whatever, similar stuff. We talked in the Celtics show about, hey, maybe Derek White needs to step up here. Maybe Peyton Pritchard's going to do more. I think with Simons there, that kills a lot of the thought on that. But the ominous wording from a lot of people around the Celtics was they're exploring moves on all fronts, and this is the beginning. So I don't know. Does Simons stay around? Is he traded somewhere else? Does Derek White go? Does Jaylen Brown get traded? Does Kristaps Porzingis go? Does Al Horford remain? So it's all well and good to say Simons is going to get a big bump or a big drop. I have no idea, because I don't know that he plays on this team. What I do know is the Celtics, it is an indication that without Jason Tatum, they are punting this season, I would guess. They're moving off of long-term money with Jrue Holiday. You could argue whether Simons is a better player than Jrue Holiday. He is in certain areas, and he's significantly worse in others. But that sort of move to get off the long-term salary suggests to me that they're in a bit of a punt for a season and then bring it back when Tatum returns. And what else they do there, I don't know. But it's a money-saving move. But it's undoubted that Simons brings more usage than Jrue Holiday does, meaning that usage bumps that we would have seen for other players are negated if this is how it stays. Pritchard's usage, White's usage, Brown's usage, Porzingis' usage. They won't go up as much as we expected because we're moving on from a guy, and I'll bring up Simons' numbers from last season on the screen so you can see them. We're moving on from a guy like Jrue Holiday to a guy that had a 25 usage. He averaged 19 points with 5 assists and shot 36% from 3, hitting 3 threes a game in Anfernee Simons. He was the 110th ranked player last season. He's, I guess, at less risk of shutdowns, although if the Celtics do legitimately punt this season, what if they do just shut guys down at the end of the year? Or Simons may not even be on this team. That's another possibility. So there's many ways that this can go. This was one of those ones that when we do the projections and talk about the value of Simons and other Celtics, I need to see what goes on because there are other seismic things that can happen with Boston, I believe. On the Portland side, they just received Jrue Holiday, which, again, I don't really understand. And I know there are many, many things that you can say about why this is a good move from Portland. I think it's a really stupid move. I don't understand it. Jrue Holiday, for the most part, appeared washed last season. Like, washed. He was not good in the aggregate. And the idea is, well, Portland is looking to be better. Okay. That's fine. Portland is making moves. It's admirable. They're getting these guys in and going for it. Like, okay, Jrue is 35. There is long-term money attached here. This is a team that's already, Portland, already, like, over the cap and pushing up against luxury tax lines for a team that's terrible. And the idea that we've always wanted from not always, but like recently, like you've got the 3rd overall pick in Scoot Henderson, but you don't give him an opportunity to start. They need to move on from Anfernee Simons. And they did. The problem is they bring back a player who plays the same position. Now, once again, I know it'd be easy to sit here and go, well, Jrue will come in. He'll be a mentor. He'll be a bench player. They'll give Scoot the chance to start. Yep. You might literally have said that out loud. You might have typed it into the chat. You might have thought that already with this deal. You might have said that. Let me put it to you this way, though. I don't think that you'd commit to 3 years of Jrue Holiday at whatever, $30 million plus a year, and you give up the assets to get Jrue Holiday in to be an 18-minute-a-night backup point guard. I don't think that it would... I know that's not smart business, but I don't think the idea would be that Jrue Holiday is coming in to be a bench player mentor, giving up assets, giving up an expiring contract in Anfernee Simons, and paying Jrue for 3 years at that price, just so he can be the backup to Scoot. Also remember that theoretically, right, your starting lineup is Toumani Camara, Deni Avdija, Jeremy Grant, DeAndre Ayton. And there's one spot. Is it Jrue? Is it Shaden? Is it Scoot? Well, it won't be Shaden because that means you've got no point guards in that group. So it's either Jrue or Scoot who starts there. Or does Jeremy Grant now come off the bench? Or is Jeremy Grant traded? Or does Deni Avdija go back to the bench? I know, before the most insane fan base in the entire world starts commenting, you're going to regret this, you'll delete all your videos, hide your face in public for saying Deni is maybe not the best player in the world. Yeah? I don't know how they're going to structure this, but this is not like, wow, it's freed everything up. I don't think. Yes, if they trade away Jeremy Grant for nothing, it frees stuff up. We are still in a situation with Donovan Clingan. You've got, and 2 of Jrue, Scoot, and Shaden will come off the bench with the way this team currently is. Yeah? That's weird. That is not a clearing of the runway. So even if Scoot does start over Jrue, possible, where is Shaden Sharp? And the acquisition of Jrue Holiday for Anfernee Simons, again, makes it difficult for Sharp to fit. Do they play Jeremy Grant off the bench? Avdija's at the 4. Kamara the 3. Then you go Sharp and Jrue. Sharp and Scoot. And Jrue comes off the bench with Grant. Like, why? It's weird. So while I can talk about all this, and Jrue, I don't think Jrue Holiday plays, or even the 31 minutes a night, like he might get to that. Are his numbers going to bump in Portland? I'm not convinced they will. Because I don't really know what the role is. It still remains entirely confusing. And there is still, I think, moves to come. Because this is a literal one-for-one player swap. And they play the same position, albeit with different usages. And you could argue that Jrue will come off the bench and play lower minutes. But again, they committed to 3 years, $100 million plus, and gave up assets to get him. To turn him into a 20-minute-a-night player seems pretty silly. It seems pretty useless. I don't know that makes sense. It might all fall into place with other moves and things that happen. But the way things stand, this is not, wow, everything is open for Scoot. Because Simons is just literally replaced by Holiday. And yeah, the minutes might change, but then we still run into the Shaedon Sharpe problem of where does he fit? And the team still remains entirely confusing until they make another move, which they probably will. But we don't know what it is, so we need to wait and see. Today's episode, it is brought to you by Open Phone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had an urgent need. Maybe you needed an old, overpaid, washed-up point guard. Well, you can call a team, and maybe they don't return your call. Do you wait around? No. You get on the phone to Boston and wait for them to swindle you. But if you're a business, you want to make sure that every call that comes to you gets answered and those customers don't go anywhere else. That is why you need Open Phone. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system built to streamline and scale your customer communications, all from an app on your phone or computer. Imagine the Celtics didn't have Open Phone and Joe Cronin called them up and say, hey, we want to give you Anfernee Simons, get you off the Jrue Holiday money and have some second round picks. And then Brad Stevens didn't get that message and then he went to a different team with a similar offer. Man, you'd be kicking yourself, wouldn't you? That's why Open Phone is so important. It captures all those leads, the AI agent as well. Make sure that you never miss a customer and answers common questions and after-hours calls. Open Phone is offering listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That is OPENPHONE.com/LockedOnNBA. If you have existing numbers with another service, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers. We're going to get into the second trade in a sec. I'm just going to put all the info for that first trade back up on the screen. Again, I don't know how to fully judge this trade yet because I'm very convinced that neither team is finished. I think the Celtics could move on from White, Porzingis, or Brown, or all of them. Portland probably still needs to move somebody. Is it Grant? Is it Sharpe? Do they reroute Jrue? Does Simons get rerouted from Boston? There's a lot that still needs to happen, I think. And that's going to make that, the analysis of all that, we need to see multiple pieces fall into place to get there. The second trade is one that happened today, and that is the Wizards and the Pelicans. Jordan Poole and the depressed penis, Saddiq Bey, head to New Orleans, along with pick number 40, in exchange for 34-year-old CJ McCollum, 34-year-old Kelly Olynyk, and a future second-round pick. You might be sitting there and thinking, well, that's a weird one, isn't it? You're right, it is. And there's numerous ways to look at this. Let's talk about the Washington side of it. First of all, they get CJ McCollum. They get Kelly Olynyk. They are both 34 years old. Okay? So we're talking very old players here. They get the future second round pick. But as you can see on the screen, the important thing there is CJ McCollum and Kelly Olynyk are expiring contracts. Chris Middleton opted into his player option. He's an expiring contract. Marcus Smart is an expiring contract. Now, all of these guys are old as shit. But that means the Wizards are going to be terrible for this upcoming season, deliberately, positioning themselves for 2026 with, honestly, $100 million of salary cap space at the moment. CJ was quite poor last season. And this does lead to complications because we saw them start Chris Middleton. Marcus Smart will play. Kelly Olynyk, not really that much, but CJ will start. And you've got Bub Carrington. You're going to have pick 6. You're going to have Keyshawn George. You're going to have Alex Sarr, who's relatively safe. Then the question then comes, what happens with those randoms like AJ Johnson? The arrival of McCollum, I think there is a chance. I don't know that there's any more reflippings happening in these deals. These are situations where you would be, I don't like McCollum from a fantasy point of view. He was the 104th ranked player this season in 33 minutes with 27 usage. Does 33 minutes and 27 usage get better? Maybe. 33 minutes, no. Usage, probably yes. Assists, he averaged 4.1. That would rise. It further complicates things with Bub Carrington, though. But drafting Chris Middleton, or Marcus Smart, which you won't want to do, or CJ McCollum, it's going to be very, very rough. Because they will have some moments, absolutely, but they're injury prone. They're old. And they just won't play down the stretch. I'm very confident in that being the case. So none of them are that good. All of them are injury prone. And they're probably not going to last out the season. But the problem that therein lies is that these guys will play early in the season, limiting what Bub Carrington does, limiting what Keyshawn George does. And then those guys will explode, or Bilal Coulibaly, those guys will explode later on. So it's one of those ones where, look, I don't know about these guys early on. I would imagine their starting lineup, unless I'm forgetting something, again, more stuff's happening. They got pick 6 in this draft. Maybe it's Ace Bailey they get. So I imagine that CJ, Sarr, and Middleton will all start. I imagine that Carrington will start. I imagine that George will start. But if Bailey's there, maybe Bailey starts over George. And you go McCollum, Middleton, Carrington, Bailey, Sarr. Little small. Bailey's a little small for the 4, but whatever. I think that's probably how they go. But could Olynyk start? Probably not. Could Smart start? Probably not. Let's take a look at Kelly Olynyk's numbers, who had a run down the end of the season where he was, for whatever insane reason, they were prioritizing using him over guys that might actually be on the roster long term, like Karlo Makovic or, who's the other guy? I can't remember who the other guy was, but like Olynyk was getting these starting opportunities for whatever reason. Now he goes to Washington as the backup, and he actually might be someone who just plays down the stretch and gets some numbers, but again, I don't know that that's the case because I'm not sure that they deprioritize Sarr in March or April. So Olynyk comes in, like we know who he is, we know the opportunities need to be there, but these are all expiring contracts. They're not part of the future. This team, you thought Utah was bad? I think this team is going to be a mess because some of the veterans, like CJ, like Middleton, like Olynyk, and even Smart, they're capable enough. They've got a long injury history, and they're going to be in and out, and while that, like we don't care about it from those individual players' perspective that much, what it does to the other guys who are, well, Bub had a big game and now it's bad. And he had a big game and then it's bad. And you go back and forward and then opportunities for Sarr. I'm just going to say Bailey or Fears or whatever they do at pick 6 is going to be very up and down. You know, can George step up with whatever role he has? And then any hopes of a Justin Champagnie opportunity is probably gone because of the ups and downs that likely happen with these veterans. They are going to be a mess of a team, I would imagine, which let me just be very clear about this. Good for them, right? That is very good for them. They are acquiring players that are going to make them hard to watch and hard to get wins this season, but they've been able to convince the owners that they needed to tear it down and not chase the 8th seed, looking at you, Chicago. They're not doing that, and they're actually trying to rebuild properly. They've got Sarr, they've got Bub, they've got pick 6, they should hopefully have another high pick next season, and then they move forward. And we'll see where that takes them. But in the meantime, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be like, John Collins played 30 good games in Utah. Does CJ do the same? I don't know. And these are guys who are much older too. So CJ's already just dropped off in terms of play. And same as Middleton, their play is not even as good. They're not reliable. They're old. They are old. But they're going to be impacting other guys, I think, quite a bit. We've got the other side of this trade that we're going to get to. So we'll come back and talk about that, the New Orleans side. Today's episode, it is brought to you by Wayfair. It's summer. Well, not here for me because it's just dark and raining early in the morning. But in summer, you want to get out into your outdoor space. You want to craft it. You want to create it. You want to curate it so it's your own. So you feel great out there in your own backyard. And Wayfair is where you need to go because they have everything that you need to level up your outdoor space. Conversation sets, outdoor bars, fire pits, hot tubs, gazebos, and yes, even the perfect string lights to set the vibe. That's the finishing touch, isn't it? The string lights. It's like giving your backyard that resort feel without the resort price tag. The best thing about Wayfair, not only is the range, the styles, every item you need for every situation, it's the delivery. It's free, it's fast, and it's hassle-free, even for the big items. So don't wait. Make your outdoor space your dream oasis today with Wayfair and enjoy it all summer long. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop a huge outdoor selection. That is WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. All right, so a reminder of what we're talking about with this second trade with Jordan Poole, the depressed penis, Sadiq Bey, head to New Orleans in exchange for CJ McCollum, and Kelly Olynyk with some second-round picks swapping between the two squads. So, let's take a look at the New Orleans side of this deal and what do they receive, because they get two players who are much younger. Now, the advantage for Washington making this deal, because I don't think that if you are serious about watching basketball, that you could argue this point. Jordan Poole was a better player than CJ McCollum last season. He is currently a better player than CJ McCollum, and he's obviously 8 years younger than CJ McCollum. Right? That's not a debatable point, I don't think. The difference here is that CJ's contract expires. Jordan Poole's goes for 3 years. And you might not believe Jordan Poole is worth that money, and that's okay. He probably isn't. But it's a move to get much younger. I hope that if you're a Washington Wizards fan, you didn't buy a Saddiq Bey jersey. That's going to be a collector's item because obviously they signed him last offseason and he never played a single game for them, sitting out all year with a torn ACL. They also get pick 40 and exchange a future second-round pick. So there are multiple ways, I think, to look at this deal. Let's start from what we look at it from a Jordan Poole perspective, who was very good last season. He was the 53rd ranked player, and one of the key things I want you to look at here is he played 29 minutes a game. 29. That is going to jump up significantly. And you'll say, well, isn't he the sixth man? What about DeJounte Murray? Again, I'll put it this way. DeJounte Murray tore his Achilles in late January. He won't be playing and obviously hosted a show ripping the Pelicans like he doesn't want to be there. All right, that's number one. He hates what's happening in that organization. He's right. What he said made sense. DeJounte Murray was also terrible. He was worse than Jordan Poole last season. Like, significantly worse as a player than Jordan Poole last season DeJounte Murray was. But even that doesn't matter because he's not there. He's not playing. And when he comes back, he's going to be limited in terms of his minutes. He's going to be limited in terms of back-to-backs. So, yes, theoretically, Jordan Poole would be the sixth man in the 26-27 season. Their starting lineup, I guess, would be Jordan Poole, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, Zion Williamson, and hopefully a better center than Yves Missi. Carmen Malwatch, maybe? Regardless, it'll be a Malwatch-Missi combination at center. That's the grouping. I'm pretty certain. Because last season we were worried, how does everyone get minutes? There's Ingram and there's CJ and there's Murray. 3 of those guys are gone. Murray will come back, but they're not there anymore. And, Bruce Brown is not around. He's a free agent. Like, that's the return from Ingram, and Olynyk's now gone. So you've got a very clear grouping. Poole is going to start, and he's going to play 34 minutes. Will he have 30 usage with Zion there in comparison to what he had in Washington and Trey Murphy? Probably not. 4.5 assists, can that go up? Yeah. Trey and Herb Jones aren't passers, so Jordan Poole can do more. Poole, again, was 53rd. He was 77th in points leagues. I think you have, yes, it was a disaster for the Pelicans this last season, but I don't think you're as big of a shutdown risk here as you would be in Washington. Am I going to go into the round 3 for Jordan Poole? No. But he's got very clear top 35 upside this season. But he's more of there's risk in that, obviously. He's one that will probably be better early in the season and then fade a little bit later as DeJounte works back. But again, Poole was better than DeJounte Murray last season. Not from a fantasy perspective, from a real-life perspective. So we'll see how that all plays, but I imagine that Poole plays a lot of minutes early. Maybe it scales back 2 more. And getting 4 extra minutes on this, even with the usage downturn, he averaged 20 points, 3 rebounds, 4.5 assists. Why can't he average 20 points again, but 5.5 assists with 4 rebounds? And the steals are good. I'm not sure that they hold, right? But being a guy that plays off of Zion versus playing off of Alex Sarr is a little different. So I'm expecting Jordan Poole to be better, and he was good last season. But I wouldn't take him in round 2 or 3, probably 4. I'd need to project all that out and see how it looks. Obviously, maybe it's not obvious, but the other guy in this deal for New Orleans is the depressed penis Saddiq Bey. Shout out to Troy Weaver for having Saddiq Bey in Detroit, trading him to Atlanta. Troy Weaver moves to Washington, signs Saddiq Bey. Troy Weaver moves to New Orleans, trades for Saddiq Bey. Is Saddiq Bey good? No. No, he's not. Is Saddiq Bey a capable backup 3/4? Yeah. He's fine at that role. And that's what he'll be. He'll be the backup to Trey Murphy. He'll back up Zion Williamson. He'll get some starts. But we know how Saddiq Bey is able to put up fantasy value. He needs to play 33 minutes and get big usage with everyone else out. And that's not happening here. There's going to be Poole, there's going to be Trey, there's going to be Zion. It needs a lot to happen for us to care. He's bad. Saddiq Bey is not a good player. He needs a lot to go right to put up numbers. And I don't think that's going to happen for him here. But it is definitely a trade that happened. Saddiq Bey heads to New Orleans, along with Jordan Poole, along with those second round picks, or pick 40, sorry, and the other second round goes the other way. So if you talk about the winners and losers here, again, there's a pretty easy way to look at this. Jordan Poole and CJ McCollum is a straight swap. All right, straight swap. Poole starts where CJ was. Poole's a better player. Value is neutral to up for Poole because he could play 5 more minutes but might lose usage. Does it hurt Trey or Zion or Herb Jones much? Not really. Kelly Olynyk goes from New Orleans to Washington. What does that do to him? Well, he would have been a backup anyway. There's no chance he would have started, I don't think. It means that the backup center spot can now be filled with pick 6, or that guy starts over Eve Missy anyway. Maybe Carlo's in the mix, probably not. Bay is your backup 3-4. In Washington, you get Olynyk, who comes in and plays the backup role where Rashawn Holmes was, plays behind Alex Sarr, plays next to Alex Sarr at times. Bay didn't play there at all last season, so we can't really judge that. And CJ replaces Jordan Poole. The problem is now you have a full season of Middleton and Smart and McCollum and Olynyk, plus the young guys. That team is a complete mess. I think they will still be looking to make some moves, Washington, but not as much as what Boston and Portland will from that earlier trade, where I think there's way more stuff that's got to go on. So let's just run through again summaries of these deals that went down. We'll go back to the first one, where Boston receives Anfernee Simons and somehow gets the expiring contract off the long-term money, saves tax money, and gets 2 second-round picks. I still think Boston has a lot to do to make moves this summer. So while it's easy to look at Simons and say that impacts Pritchard, it impacts White, it impacts all these guys because his usage is way higher than Jrue, there's no guarantee he is there or that those other guys are there. Portland receives, for some reason, Jrue Holiday. And again, this is not Jrue coming in as an 18-minute backup, meaning that Scoot is unleashed because we're still Shaden Sharp, we've got to find minutes for, and they gave up assets and long-term flexibility to get Jrue Holiday. We've got to see what they do with other players. Do they move on from Jeremy Grant? Because that'll help open stuff up, but they are still very much log-jammed, and the starting lineup is not clear. Washington, in the second trade, gets CJ McCollum and Kelly Olynyk, both 34 years of age, both expiring contracts in the future second. They shed money to get cap space for 2026. CJ will start. He'll be bad at times, but his numbers will be similar-ish to last season. But the risk you have there, like last season, he was the 100th best player. Maybe he's 80th per game. But he's not playing. Like down the stretch, he's just not going to play. You've got a full season of Middleton. You've got a full season of Marcus Smart. You've got Kelly Olynyk now. You've got Carrington. You've got George. You've got Pick 6. You've got Sarr. I feel like there's somebody else I'm missing on this team. Olynyk's not going to be worthwhile for most of us in fantasy. Well, Jordan Poole is going to just play more minutes. He played 29 minutes last season. That is going up. Is it 32? Is it 35? Because their other point guard options are... Yeah, thanks. That's who they are. It's Jordan Hawkins. It's Alfred Payton, who was filling in last season. Maybe they do take a point guard at 7. I don't know what they do, but their point guard options are nobody. It's Jordan Poole. He's playing big minutes. Yes, his usage probably drops, but you're going to add 15% extra minutes onto his total. Doesn't really impact Zion that much. Herb's not going to be a usage guy. Trey Murphy probably loses a little bit, honestly, a little bit of usage. Not a huge amount, but a little bit. Losing Olynyk means it's just more value for the centers. And then Saddiq Bey slides into some of the minutes Olynyk would have taken anyway. So, what an eventful time that we had. I'm coming back with my full 59 pick mock draft later today. We've got the live draft show tomorrow coming up at 8 p.m. Eastern, plus the second half of the Pacers season review, which I hope to get out today, but I just don't know. We'll see. I said on the first half of the Pacers preview, I said, hey, we normally get like a trade 2 days before the draft, but maybe we don't because the Kevin Durant one. We get a trade out of nowhere is what I said usually happens, but maybe we don't because we had the Kevin Durant deal. And then we had 2 trades completely out of nowhere. Holiday, Simons, Poole, McCollum. You'll also notice all point guards, all switching teams. Although you could argue that Simons, Jrue, McCollum, and Poole are all like shooting guards playing point guard. But I also think that the term point guard or pure point guard, as I just ramble here, is so nonsense anymore. It's lead guards. Who has the ball? Who has the usage? Who makes the decisions? Because Anthony Edwards isn't a point guard, but he's a lead guard. Simons isn't really a point guard, but he's a lead guard. Jrue Holiday is, well, he's actually the opposite now because he's not really a point guard, but he's not a lead guard, but like he can still handle that role. McCollum's more of a shooting guard, but he can be a lead ball handler too. It's weird. All the same positions change teams. Guys, let me know what you think about those trades. Let me know what you think about any of the comments that I made or the valuations on those players. More importantly, let me know how stupid I am about Denny Avdia. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.